Hi guys, sit down, relax, and today I hope you will learn something on system innovation, meaning the profound or even radical change of societal systems. This is much needed as our systems are facing persistent problems, like the double burden of malnutrition, access to affordable and high-quality healthcare, climate change. This just to name a few. This video has become a little bit longer, so I have decided to record 2 episodes. The first, on what are social systems? The second, what is system innovation? And how can we influence system innovations? So let me first dig a bit into what we mean with social systems, the things that we need to innovate, the things that we want to change. A social system consists of all the interactions of agents in the system, with each other, the physical, the cultural environment. This to produce societal goals that are meaningful to them, such as energy, education, health, security, mobility. You may think, wow, these are rather large and very complex systems to analyze. You are quite right to think so. And although the theory can also be applied to nested systems or subsystems, for example, the elderly care system, the primary care system, the HIV/AIDS care system within the larger health system, it still remains very, very, very complex. Though it did not resolve its complexity, I found some resolve in complex adaptive system theory and Giddens structuration theory to understand social systems. Complex adaptive systems consider social systems metaphorically as biological organisms, in that the system and its agents constantly change property in response to, sometimes even in anticipation of, changes in the environment. So agents constantly act and react upon one another, and the decision of all agents determine the behavior of the system. Sometimes their behavior is synergetic, sometimes it's conflicting. This makes that the behavior of the system is unpredictable, with often quite some tension. Also, it's hard to set boundaries to the system. The system is open as agents move in and out of the system. However, agents in the system do not necessarily act autonomously. Generally, they respond to their environment using a set of rules that are embedded in the system. Rules can be explicit, think for instance about health insurance policies, or they can be implicit, for example the unwritten rules around doctor-patient interactions. The shared rules provide meaning to the functioning of the system, but at the same time the rules restrict the behavior of the agents, as agents in general are unlikely to act in conflict with them. Like you and me, we want to stick to their routines. This makes a complex adaptive system rather resistant to substantial changes. Rules and physical structures are built in to reproduce and reinforce successful practices. But in doing so, we also build in their negative side effects. For example, the CO2 emission as a negative side effect of the super successful fossil fuel system. So these rules are the product of past interactions in the system, which determine the future actions of agents in the system. And this is what we call path dependency. Thus, in the analysis of systems, history cannot be ignored. And as my colleague Dr. Schuitmaker argues, look especially for the successes in the current system to understand why it is so difficult to do something about the problems in the system, because these problems are often the negative side effects of these successes. So let me summarize. Systems behavior is based on the interaction of actors who have a value frame, follow rules using structures that were developed in the past, making them path-dependent and difficult to change. However, before you think that we as agents in the system are dumb rule followers, junkies of the systems, slaves to it, no. We have the ability to reflect upon our actions, enabling us to also adapt the structures in the system. This is largely based on Giddens structuration theory. I would reckon a must-read for you guys. For example, on a micro level, many of you are reflecting on their footprint. You may choose to become a vegetarian. This can be practiced on an individual level. But the past decades, many individuals have adopted this idea, and new structures are set up around this idea that are fundamentally changing our food and nutrition system. Less meat consumption becomes normal. Supermarkets, restaurants, the industry are accommodating. Sometimes reflection can first only materialize at an idea level, as it is hard to adapt to individual behavior. In these instances, shared action is often needed. For example, the choice for having an electric car requires quite some fundamental changes that can only be made by people together, and preferably people with power. So agents can adapt through reflection. In complex adaptive system theory, this is dubbed emergent behavior of systems. New behavior can emerge because of a new idea, a new technology, a new social innovation. Additionally, agents have the ability to self-organize around those new ideas, so creating new structures around these novel behaviors on a small scale, which can ultimately become the new structures in the system. Perhaps as important, changes in one system may lead to changes in another system. Take for instance how changes in the telecommunication system, the smartphone, is affecting how we can organize healthcare at a distance. This process we call co-evolution of systems. Thus not only agents are adaptive, but also the system itself. Also through emergent behavior, self-organization and co-evolution. But perhaps most so because we, as agents in the system, reflect upon our practices. However, adaptations are not necessarily for the better. This largely depends on whose viewpoint is being considered, and therefore, inclusive processes of reflection are required. So much for complex adaptive systems. To understand the system, try to analyze how agents interact with each other and their environment. Remember, we are the actors who produce complex systems while acting in these, but the rules we produce in the systems determine how we act. This makes the system path-dependent. But on a positive note, we can reflect upon this together and try to unravel what structures need to be adapted. Perhaps this way we can influence how systems profoundly change, so-called system innovation.